All right, let's get some data. So you're going to click on this link here to go to the US Census Bureau. All kinds of really good data here. We're going to go up to the Data tab, and let's go to Data Main. We really want to go to the American Fact Finder. There's a few different ways to get there. Once we get there, you want to type in the basic geographic area you're looking for. So I'm going to look for the state of Ohio, and then I'm going to go for counties in Ohio. For you, that may be a different state, or maybe you're looking at a different level, maybe the national level or the district level. But I'm looking at the state of Ohio. Notice that I have lots of choices here. There's two basic types of data here. There's census data that's going to be collected every 10 years. So here's Census 2000. And then there's these American community surveys that are done essentially every month. That's a much more recent data. So if the type of variable you're looking for is in the American Community Survey, then getting a recent one here is probably the best idea. So I'm looking for counties, people below poverty level. I could also look at the child poverty level. That may be something you want to explore for this assignment. It's going to follow the same exact steps. I'm going to look in general the poverty levels. Okay, and I want to take a quick peek at what I got here. So I'm from Ohio, so I recognize a lot of these counties as being from Ohio. I might take a peek at, I was from Logan County, so I see there was a 14.5% poverty rate there. The second number is called a margin of error. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but essentially it says how accurate this estimate is. Because it's not a census, it didn't look at every single person, it just looked at a large survey. It may not be exact. So this 14.5% poverty for my county may actually be down to 13% or up to 16%, somewhere in that range. For now, don't worry too much about these margin of errors, other than knowing they're a general idea of how accurate the estimate is here. Okay, and the next thing is we need to get this data into our spreadsheet. So a few different ways to do that. We could click on download. We have some options here. Microsoft Excel could bring it into a Microsoft Excel sheet first, and that way we'd have the data saved in a separate spreadsheet, or could bring it in. Notice that you don't need to have Microsoft Excel to do this. You could download it as a Excel file, and then in your sheet, in your Google Sheets, you can go to File, Import. It'll allow you to pull in an Excel file even if you don't have Excel on your computer. But really we don't even need to do that, so let's cancel out. One way that works quite well actually is just the cut and paste. It's certainly something you could try in any case. So I clicked at the beginning there, I held down the Shift key, and clicked at the end. On a Mac, I forget that's slightly different, but that allows me to select all the data here. Right click, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to open up my spreadsheet here. Notice I have week 4. Just click in that first cell, right click, and then I'll paste. Comes in pretty nicely, even layers it a little bit with color here. A few things to notice. One, I have all these errors. So if I click in there, I'm getting what's called a formula parse error. And if I look up there and see what's happening, what's going on there is that the census site was using symbols that Excel recognizes this as some kind of formula, but it doesn't know what to do with it, or Sheets, sorry, recognizes that. In our case, we're not going to worry about that too much because we don't need this anyway, so I'm just going to left click on the C, right click on it, and then delete that comment. If we did need it, there's formulas we could do to transform it to something usable. Okay, next thing we want to do is go back to our instructions here. So we want to do county, population. For me, I'll be doing percent poverty. So I have the, I'm going to rename that as county. Notice this is my percent poverty. And so the other thing that I had wanted you to put in there was population. So what do I do there? I'm already missing that column. Easy enough. I click on the B, left click on that, right click, and then insert a column to the left, and then I can name that population. Okay, and beyond that, I want to get total number in poverty, and then absolute deviation and square deviation. So total number in poverty, absolute deviation. These last two columns, they may or may not be required depending on your instructor. So do check with your instructor what his or her plan is for those. And here I'm going to, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for text wrapping. And what that does is it gives me the entire column header that I can see all at once. These other numbers are a little small too. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a Control A to select everything. And let's put everything at a size 10 font there, a little more readable. Okay, I also tell you to freeze that first row, so I'm left clicking there, going up to View, Freeze, one row. That way when I do sorts, it's not going to mess up and put the column headers inside my county names. Another thing we want to notice here is that this very first row of data is our entire state total. So 15.8% of the state of Ohio, of the people living in Ohio, are in poverty. That's not one of the counties. That's an overall total, and I want to make sure I don't confuse that. This particular data sheet, I'm just doing a county level analysis. So I'm going to left click on that, right click, and then delete row. However, I do want to know the total for the state here. So I ask you to write sum down here. I'm going to put that in bold and also going to put a line below that county. And this way I can total these columns if they make sense. Now notice this one's not going to make sense. I can show you here if I take the sum of all of these cells here. So I get 1349.4 as a total percent poverty. A completely meaningless number there. What I might put there is that number I had deleted earlier, 15.4, the average state percent poverty. But I think I'm just going to leave that blank for right now. I do need to put the total population, but I need to download that separately. So I'll let you do that. You're going to do it very similar to what you did for this first part. Go back to that American Fact Finder page. You're probably going to just hit the backspace. And using this, one thing to make sure is that you are getting the same time period. So if I'm using poverty rates from 2015, I want to make sure I get populations from 2015 also.